Hello everyone, my name is OTV. Here in the UK it is an absolute scorching day, so if you do end up going outside today, please keep safe and make sure to stay hydrated. Due to the heat, it had me bored. I thought that instead of doing nothing today, I would be somewhat productive and create a tier list video for Wild. As you know, there's a recent patch to the game with cards like Lightning Bloom being nerfed, potentially changing up the current Wild meta, and because of that, I thought I would share my predictions for the meta going forward. I have 5 categories. Legendary, which is the best decks that you should all be playing right now. Epic decks, which are still very strong. Rare decks, which can be good in the hands of certain players. Common decks, which are a bit weaker. And finally, unplayable decks that you need to be avoiding because just don't. They're not good. So without delay, let's go into the first class, which is Demon Hunter. So the first step we're going to do, as I said, is Aggro Demon Hunter. Now, this deck they did see some play in Wild. I believe before the Drekfire nerf, it was probably, you were looking around tier 3, tier 2 range, but ever since then it's just not been good. So again, it's going to have to go in playable. Same can be said about Reno Demon Hunter. I just think Demon Hunter in Wild is not a good class. Maybe there's some potential of Odd Demon Hunter just because of how much damage it can put out, but even then it's highly unlikely to see any play. I think Demon Hunter, obviously for a long time, will not be relevant in Wild. That's because, it's a brand new class. I say brand new, it's 2 years old now, but because of this, it has 6 years just to catch up with every other class, and until something truly broken comes along, I do not think we're going to see any of it. Okay, so moving on to Druid. First of all, Beast Druid. Now, Beast Druid, it has fallen off for quite some time due to decks just doing what it does a lot better. And I think even now with the decks that exist in Wild, it's just not good enough. It can still pick up a few wins. If you draw the nuts, you can pretty much get a lethal by turn 5 with cards like Arbor Up. So I'm going to put it in the common tier for the time being. Now, this is a strong deck. Cthulhu Druid, I think that's the first one I'll put in the legendary category. It is the premium control deck in the format currently. I know some people disagree that it's a control deck, and people argue it's combo. It's a control deck, it just has a late game finisher. Let's not get into it. But obviously, it's the amount of defensive tools it has. Oaken Summons can win the rogue matchup on its own. Then, cards like Guff. How do late game decks compete which don't kill you quickly with combo decks like Mechafoon decks? How do they compete when you have 20 mana? It just doesn't work. Dragon Druid. Now, Dragon Druid's interesting because Breath of Dreams is one of the best ramp cards in Wild currently, but I think that the whole deck around it is just not as good as it used to be before the Kazakhstan nerf. You have to include cards like Emerald Explorer now, which they're not the worst, but it's not great. But I think it's still, if you want to play a deck with the Dragons and Kazakhstan, I don't think it's too bad, so I'm going to put it in the rare category. It's, can still get a few wins. It's very fun as well, I will say that. Line Cracker Druid. Now, as you know, in the recent patch, Earthen Scales was hit. So, I don't think the 1 mana difference with this deck in particular will affect it too hard. But it could still come up. There could be games where you would have won before with that 1 extra mana. So I'm going to also put it in the rare category. I still think it's good. I think it's it's one of those anti-control decks, but I think it's fine off. Malygos Druid. Malygos, again, I think it's in the common tier. I understand the excitement for it because Malygos Druid has been throughout Hearthstone a very popular deck amongst people. I love it. I love the archetype. Doing huge amounts of damage through spells is so fun. But I don't think Moonbeam was enough to help out the deck. And with decks like Cthulhu Druid being in the meta, you can just sometimes just not do enough damage with it. Now, Mecha Druid, this is, I could have just called it Celestial Alignment Druid, I think it's the same, but then you get confused with Togwaggle, so I didn't want to do that. I think this is epic. This deck is very fast. Obviously not as fast as other combo decks in the meta, but sometimes if they just get an early, if they can get the alignment down, it's over. Obviously you have cards which come into like Pride Seeker now, meaning you not only can play alignment, you can also immediately start off your pop-off turn, go into Nourish, go into Lady Anaconda, and just win from there. So I think Epic's right. It does struggle against some more aggressive strategies compared to decks like Cthulhu Druid, but I still think it's quite high up there. Reno Druid is... I think it's unplayable. Some people have said it's slept on. I am not convinced as of yet. I could be wrong. I'm hoping I'm wrong, because it looks like a very, very fun deck. Cards like Floop especially. But I just don't see it. Togwaggle Druid I'm going to place in the same category as Mechafoon. Because, I mean, they are, around about the same archetype. You play Celestial Alignment, you spam all your cards, your opponent can't do anything, or they just lose. And because of that, I think it is on the same power level. Do note, there is that new version of it popping up with Gadget and Auctioneer that just, cycles through the deck. Again, I haven't seen too much of that, so I can't comment how good that is, but if that could maybe push it up a tier. I don't think it will. I think it'll still just sit below the best decks in the meta. And that is all for Druid. Moving on to the Hunter class. First we'll be starting with Beast Hunter. You may have heard of a name for it, Copper Hunter, as it was made by, I believe it was created by player Copper Scum. And it's based around spamming out low cost beasts, then using the, I think it's called Harpoon Gun, but it's the weapon which reduces a card by 3, so you can play things like Timberwolf, then Tundra Rhino, and just direct damage at the face. Starving Buzzard comes into play, just so you can draw out your entire deck. It's interesting, because I haven't seen much of it on ladder, but every time I've played it, I've lost against it, because it does get you out of nowhere, so I am gonna put it at the top of the rare category for now. Again, this is just my uneducated opinion. I think it could be pushed up though, but for the time being, I'm going to leave it there. It looks a very interesting deck. I think there's more to see of it potentially. Defend the Dwarven District, aka Questline Hunter. I also think, again, I'll put it behind Copper Hunter. I think it is good against the slower decks, but I guess it can just be quite quickly outpaced, especially with the nerf to Dragon's Bane. Maybe the odd version comes back. I have seen a few of those, but again, I'm not entirely convinced. Even Hunter, I think we'll put this in the common, behind Malagos Druid. It's a fast aggro deck, but again, I think aggro decks, there's just other decks that do it better. Same with Secret Hunter, I think they belong next to each other. During the Kael'thas meta, I piloted this deck to top 50, I believe. But after I played it because it could beat both Switcheroo Priest and Kael'thas Druid. Other than that, the deck's terrible. It doesn't beat anything. So that is again the quick summary of Hunter. Okay, now we have the Mage class. Starting with Mech Mage. I'm going to put it at the bottom of the Epic tier. Mech Mage is very explosive, but against controlling decks like the Druids or even Shudderwock Shaman that will come up later, it can just fall apart. Noted, it does beat Pirate Rogue, which will be probably in the top tier. And it is very good at beating Pirate Rogue. It can just decimate the deck entirely. I think a lot of the mech decks can, but apart from that, I just don't think it's as strong as other decks in the meta. Reno Mage is... feels close to unplayable, but I'm going to put it in the common tier. It's not as strong as it used to be. I think everyone knows this, everyone understands this, but again, a very fun deck. I think Engine was playing it to some success, but other than that, I don't think it's good enough. The controversial one, Waygate Mage. I think this is another. I'll put it between. No, I'll put it just before the Celestial Alignment Druid decks. Waygate Mage, honestly, I hate the deck, but I understand why people enjoy it because it does remind you of the old Quest Mage, which used cards like Mana Cyclone. Then you had the Vargoth Waygate combo. But I really hope they do something about the Parrot. It's just not fun, especially because the deck is just revolved. It's not even about generating spells. It's just about seeing how many coins you can get. And it's not fun gameplay. But other than that, I think it's a strong deck. If you can avoid aggressive decks, it's a very, very good deck. Okay, next class up is Paladin. This is one of my favourite classes actually, even though I don't play it as much nowadays. First of all, Reno Paladin. I am gonna put that in the rare category behind Copper Hunter. I think Reno Paladin has potential. It's pretty much always had potential. I think it's a pretty decent deck, which can just win matchups. It's a weird deck where I don't necessarily see it having good or bad matchups. I think it's 50-50 with everything. It just really depends how well you draw. But I think that's what makes the deck so fun, because you can just find lines for each game you play in. But also, it comes in the effect of what they say. It's something good at everything, master of none. But still, I think it's a fairly strong deck. Mech Paladin. I'm going to put that ahead of Mech Mage. With Mech Paladin, it falls into the same strengths and weaknesses as Mech Mage, being that it's very good against more aggressive decks, but can just fall apart against more of the slow controlling decks, like your Cthulhu Druids or your Celestial Alignment Druids and your Shudderwock Shamans. Apart from that, I think fairly solid deck. Okay, so going into Priest. Big Priest is unplayable. It is just... honestly, I've always said about decks like Resurrection Priest and Big Priest, it's bronze player bait, where the only people seem to talk about it are like people in bronze to silver ranks, and then after that, no one sees it ever again. Even with Neptune, which I've seen people play, it's still just a terrible deck. Stay away from it. It's awful. Reno Priest. Now, Reno Priest is very interesting, as there's a new version of it which runs Dark Bishop Benedictus to have that shadow package. It also runs a lot of controlling tools rather than the Spawn of Shadows Burn Planet normally you used to run, and it looks pretty good. I've played, I think, was it Killer Raccoon? I think that's his name. He was playing it. He did quite well with it. He faced me, and I think he did win that game. It's a very interesting deck. I'm gonna rate it at the bottom of rare for now, but don't be surprised if this deck does well. I think it's gonna surprise a lot of people, I reckon. Shadow Priest, and this is what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the Reno Shadow Priest. This is, either the burn version with Leopard Gnomes or the Pirate version. This is just the aggressive Shadow Priest deck. I think this belongs next to Beast Druid, where I think due to other aggressive decks in the meta, it's just not good enough. Again, it can catch people off guard because it can do a lot of early damage very quickly, but again, I think if you want to do that, just play Pirate Rogue. Just play other things. If you want to play Shadow Priest, go ahead, but it's not the best aggro deck you can be playing right now. Now we're going into the Rogue class. I just in general despise Rogue in Wild currently. I think it's one of the most uninteractive classes you can have. But, hey, let's carry on. Caverns Rogue. I am going to put this in common. Mostly because it's very good into a lot of slower decks, but it's always been the case. But with decks like Pirate Rogue existing, it just will die. Won't be able to get off the ground at all. Maybe if Swordfish is eventually decided to be changed, or say Secret Passage is looked at, or Cutting Class maybe, but until then, I think it stays near the bottom. Mine Rogue. With the changes to Wildpaw Null, I think I'm going to move this to the middle of the rare tier. It can, get a lot of damage in. It can do some pretty disgusting things, but again, with that Null nerf, it makes the aggro matchup slightly worse, so I think it will take a hit. Pillager Rogue. I am putting this in the Epic category next to Quest Mage. Another deck which I just want to go away. I think having a deck which can routinely kill you on turn 6 with a combo shouldn't be a thing, and Pillager Rogue seems to do that quite often. Obviously there's ways to get around it. You can play things like Okani. I think, that's what really comes to mind, but maybe Dirty Rat. You can hit Pillager, you can hit things like Scabs, which even though they can still get around it, but it can slow them down. I still think it's a very strong deck, and if you are playing slow control decks, you gotta keep in mind this will ruin your day. So, I don't know, it's something you gotta watch out for. Now we have Pirate Rogue. That is going at the top. I think this is the best deck in Wild by far. Obviously, there's a bit of bias with aggro decks being, at higher ranks, where I always feel like people look down on aggro decks, especially at higher ranks, because of the brain dead, as people like to call it, aspect of them. But I think even against some, like, the best players, Pirate Rogue can just demolish decks. It's obscenely strong. Things like Frenzy Foul Wing, hard to, like, this, how many zero cost cards it plays is just ridiculous. But yeah, I think that truly belongs in the legendary category. If you want to climb fast, play this deck. Okay, we're approaching the end with the Shaman class. We've got 2 more classes after this. Big Shaman. Oh. If you've been playing Wild recently, you know that this deck would have been in the legendary tier. It was just... it was horrible. It was... Turn 1 Yashirajas and Neptulons were not uncommon, and it could win games immediately. However, with the change to Lightning Bloom, I think it will be playable, but not as oppressive. I'm going to put it in the rare category. I don't know. It could be worse. But still, Ancestral on 4, it's not the worst play in the game. You can be very annoying, and Neptulon still is an insanely strong card. So we'll have to see. But I think it's not as good as it was before, clearly. Murloc Shaman. Again, I think this goes in common. Obviously, with most Murloc decks, it can get you. It can just draw the nuts, just completely overwhelm you, get a turn, 5 kill, boom. But again, so can a lot of aggro decks. Pirate Rogue arguably can do that, but in turn 4. So I just don't think it's as good. That being said, it feels like one of those decks which is 1 or 2 cards away from being very strong, and I would hate to see that because I don't find Murloc decks that fun. Questline Shaman, aka Frog Shaman. This is tough. Because with the nerf to Drekfire, it obviously became a lot weaker. Bloom doesn't really hurt it that badly because it's there to play. You're looking to play more cards in a turn, not to cheat mana. But I'm gonna put it at the top of common category for now. I think it has potential, but till I see something out of the deck, I wouldn't, bank on it. It's very fun. You can do a lot of damage with Bioluminescence. I'm talking a lot of damage. But yeah. My favourite deck, Shudderwock Shaman. Recently crafted Shudderwock in gold. Thank you, Hearthstone, for the upgrade feature. That has been fantastic. Putting that in the epic category, I think it struggles against the druid decks and can struggle against pirate rogue unless you tech 4 pirate rogue, and even then pirate rogue can still just kill you. But I still think it's a very strong deck. A lot of times you feel good coming up against decks that aren't, say, these 4, I would argue. Everything else you're kind of okay with. Even like Cthulhu Druid to an extent you're kind of fine with, but again, with these combo decks in the meta, it does struggle, because unless you hit like the best rats and the best low fed timings, you're going to lose to them every time. Reno Shaman is unplayable. I'm not, not the bottom of unplayable. I will put it at the top of unplayable. But if you want to play a deck like a value Shaman, just play, not value, but just play Shudderwock Shaman. Shudderwock Shaman is just better Reno Shaman. If you want to play Reno Shaman, then go ahead, but it's just not a good deck. That is my honest opinion on it. And that is all for Shaman. Our next class is Warlock. Even Warlock goes in the legendary tier. I think it just goes behind Pirate Rogue. But again, very, very good deck. If you want to, again, win games, get climb fast, very, very good. Not only was it good before the Gigafin combo, it can, like, the Gigafin combo adds a lot to it. It adds that high roll potential that I think in this meta, sadly, you do need. But even then, playing just multiple 8/8s with Battlemaster can win the game as early as turns like 5 sometimes if you're on coin. So again, if you do like that style of, the handlocky Warlock decks, highly recommend it. Will add a note, there is the Reno version. I don't recommend it, I don't think it's as good, but if you if you want to play some Reno even Warlock, go for it. But if it was even Reno, it would be down probably the rare category, but just straight up even Warlock, it's legendary category. Mechafoon, I think that is just below the legendary category, but it's a very strong deck. I think that's probably the best combo deck in the format, I'd argue. Maybe, yeah, I think, yeah, no, I'll stand my ground on that. I think it's very quick and can just, get to that combo probably round about, I don't know, it's, depending on how, good the runed mithril ones are, you can just get that combo. I've seen people get it on turn 8 before. It is obscenely fast. And also it has, cards like Plague of Flames, which Plague of Flames should... I've made a post about this on Twitter. It should be banned. That card's way too good for what it does, especially when you're destroying cards which draw you cards or gain you health. It's just way too good, way too good. But yeah, so I'm placing that in the top of the epic category. Reno Warlock. I think this goes... Yeah, I'm going to say at the top of the common. I don't think it's too good. There's that... Was it Tech W Lock, I think people called it? But, I don't know, its win rates don't seem to be backing it up, and I think it's a very fun deck. Again, it's similar to Reno Mage, but other than that, you're better off playing Swingcast if you want that kind of experience. Mine Warlock, I'm going to put this, people might laugh at me. I'm putting this at the top of the rare category. It's the same as Owl Warlock and shares quite a lot with Mechafoon Warlock. Obviously, the game plan is you get a mine out, destroy it. It's probably Plague of Flames, as mentioned earlier. And then you can, cards like Tasman's Phylactery, I think I got that right. You can give loads of tokens the Death Rattle and just blow up your opponent. Obviously, with mines, it's not as good as owls. But then again, with Tasman Roam, you're often doubling up that damage. So I don't think even if you're playing against a druid, they have to gain a lot of armor to get out of that. But I think, for a fast combo deck, it's pretty good. I think it is a bit slept on. I think it's slept on in the same reason that if you're playing a Warlock combo deck, you're going to be playing Mechafoon. But still, if you want something different, try the Mine Rogue. Mine Warlock. Now finally, last class, Warrior, and it's going to be a quick one because there's only 2 Warrior decks, because Warrior, not very good right now. Bomb Warrior. I think this goes in the common category. I've seen people do well against it. Well with it. It can disrupt combo decks, but again, I don't think it's that likely to disrupt many combo decks. It's, you know, has control tools, but it's just, I don't know. I don't think it's as good as some other anti-control, anti-combo decks you can get. It's a shame. I really want a deck like Bomb Warrior to do well. Blastmaster Boom is such a fun card to play, especially when combined with Dr. Boom Mad Genius, but I don't think they even see playing the deck. I think you're playing Rokara, if anything. But, yeah, hey-ho. You can hold on to the past. I wish J Druid come back. That's not coming back. Questline Warrior. Oh boy, this... How the Mighty Have Fallen. This... I'm going to put this at the top of unplayable. It used to be so good. It used to be so strong. But now it's just terrible. It just... Against some decks, obviously, it's, you know, actually no, I'm going to be a bit more fair. I'm going to put it in the common. I'll put it in the common. It can do really well. When you get the quest out, I do think you can win, but you're just so slow getting that out nowadays. Against a lot of decks, you just fall behind so quickly. It's a shame. It really is, but there you have it. And there we have it. That is the final tier list for the wild meta. Obviously, if I've missed any decks out, please let me know in the comments. I probably have. I think I added Reno Warlock as a last minute. Obviously, I'm probably going to be wrong. I'm not an expert on this. This is just more off feelings and what I think could do well. If you're looking for a recommendation, again, Pirate Rogue, even Warlock, Cthulhu, Druid, great decks. Obviously, I think I'll mostly be playing Cthulhu, Druid, and Shudderwock Shaman going forward because they're just my favourite decks. I love them. However, yeah, this is... I'm not sure if I'm going to make any more videos like this. Maybe, I don't know. I'll see how I feel. I wanted to, like... I've been wanting to make content for a while now, but I didn't know what, you know, direction to go with that. Obviously, I don't want to just, like, you know, pump out gameplay because everyone does gameplay. I want to do something different. Maybe I'll bring the budget tier lists to YouTube as well. I've been doing on my Twitter, which is over at OTV98. Please follow me if you want to see more of that kind of stuff, because I think Wild is a format that I think people are put off by because the barrier to entry is somewhat higher than I'd say for standard, but with Wild, once you have these cards, there's no reason to get rid of them. They'll always be playable, which I think is a great point of the format. Obviously there's some balancing issues, but what can you do? So anyway, if you enjoyed, please like, subscribe, share the video, all that stuff, and I will see you soon, maybe for another video. Thank you. Goodbye.